Absolute is not as difficult as I thought it'd be. I've been playing since launch and have been through the ups and downs, the nerfs and the buffs. Honestly, I went in all amped up, and so far, I've only lost one game. Not that I'm saying it's easy, I do enjoy the challenge a lot, having a total blast. Alright, so, Absolute on a launch, I definitely, went into it thinking that it was going to be much harder than it ended up being. That said, the spore mines definitely kind of make it a little bit difficult. Seriously, the spore mines can level up those tiered missions as far as difficulty. It definitely difficulty spikes those tiered missions. And we were talking about Absolute so much before launch that we really kind of expected something a bit crazy. I think some people suggested like 2 Terminus enemies or something, which definitely would have been a bit of a difficulty spike. That said, I do think the 3 Extremists can throw some crazy combinations at you. Like double sorcerers who are, rezzing their majors in a fight, like that can get pretty difficult. I think as far as the mobs go, I think there's been a little bit of a theory that we're not getting as many mobs in Absolute as we do in other difficulties. And that may be true. I don't know. The game director can do so many crazy things. But I guess he said not that I'm saying it's easy. I do enjoy the challenge a lot, having a total blast. All right, let's continue. And it's not as if I get a really good team every single time. I've had instances where I had underperforming teammates and rage quitters who leave after they are downed. Yeah. When Absolute launched, I was getting some really good teammates, I will say. My teams have been pretty good, and the only time we've ever really lost an Absolute run is when one of my teammates just aren't. they were carried in lethal and then just went right into Absolute, which is rare, I will say. I think as far as how many times I've lost on Absolute, I don't know. I was trying a charged attack power fist build that wasn't doing very good on Absolute. Operation number 3 can definitely throw people off, especially that part where the Tyranids and the Chaos are fighting each other. There's too many people that I'm playing with that are just trying to go right down the middle and aggro the entire level. So that can definitely make Absolute a little bit more difficult. Alright, let's continue the post. My point is, I expected something far more difficult, really gritty, the kind of endgame where you might need to coordinate with some friends on setting up complementary builds for the run. I really don't think I really don't think that element would be great for the game at the moment. It's less about coordinating your builds and just pretty much spawning in, looking at your team perks, and then playing around that. That can kind of help out a lot. Like, for example, if you have Bonds of Brotherhood, make sure you hold on to your stims. If you're doing extra damage against Extremists, yeah, just try to fight around the stipulations of your team perks, and then you should be fine. Alright. Yeah, because obviously I think too much coordinating would definitely make the game a struggle to play with randoms, and I don't think they would want the game to be in that spot, to be honest. Aside from extra Extremist sprinkle, I'm not feeling much of a difference between lethal and Absolute. Interesting. Nah, if you the one element it does have is the extra Extremist. If you said aside from that I'm not feeling too much of a difference, then yeah, okay. Like I just don't, yeah, I'm not too sure if that's a necessary point to make. But sure. If Absolute looked more like lethal, it's Absolute is probably closer to lethal than Ruthless is closer to lethal, I guess. Is it just me, or are you also having the same experience? Yes, I have also had moments where we face the untold masses of majors combined with Extremists and Terminus all in the same package. Yeah, that's difficult. I'm not too sure what this guy's talking about, man. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, his little edit right here. Yeah, that's what difficulty is supposed to be like. What class do you imagine this guy's using? All right. I gotta say, I do think there's like Absolute on launch compared to Absolute now, even though it's only been a couple days. It definitely feels a bit different because it really only takes players one lethal run to jump into Absolute. So you can definitely find it's basically based on your team on how difficult this new difficulty is going to be, I think. Health and damage don't change past Ruthless. Lethal adds Enraged, and Absolute gets 3 Extremists. It all depends on your luck and AI director. One mission can be an absolute nightmare. I had Fall of Atreus with fights across the whole level because it spawned everything from the second Dreadnought encounter to other places. Ammo was a problem. Other times, it's almost empty. That's interesting. Fall of Atreus was definitely an eye-opener for me as well when it came to Absolute. It was just pure, I would say pure chaos. But obviously it's a chaos mission, right? So it was definitely pure madness. Like, if you're fighting with the Dreadnought and you're noticing it's also having a hard time clearing out waves of chaos, it's like, oh wow, okay, this is definitely a step up. I do think Fall of Atreus is in a good spot though, that said. Definitely make sure you know what you're doing when you jump into Fall of Atreus, though. You got to make sure you know how to fight Terminators and Sorcerers, like, very well. Like, you got to make sure you can take them out, basically, as soon as you see them, almost. And, yeah, there's just waves and waves of Disc Shamans and Rubric Marines. It can be seriously difficult to get through Fall of Atreus. It seems like the original poster here comments on Fall of Atreus, though, so let's get into that. I'm actually kind of curious this poster's perspective. I've had those moments where we get these massive waves and ammo runs out. I find it thrilling. Like, yes, the untold masses, and it's time to dive in. Melee only. Okay, melee only. So this guy is probably playing Assault. Interesting. Hey, you know what? I gotta say, there's a really strong Assault build right now for melee, so I wouldn't be surprised if this guy's playing, basically playing as an Assault main and just smashing majors over and over again. I wouldn't be surprised. Everyone who says this hasn't been on the bad side of the AI director's RNG. The crazy spawn BS RNG knob goes from about a 9 to anywhere in the ballpark of around 20. When it happens, you will be both humbled and probably on here with a crazy story about having to deal with one lictor after another. 4 warriors calling for backup simultaneously, triggering 4 waves, holy cow, to start lapping in, forcing you into a 45-minute fights with 0 ammo pickups anywhere in sight. Better be Spider-Man with that parry and dodge, and having a Nora or Zoe spawn just as you get through a barrier area, only to get a squad wiped by a beam as it ignores every solid object just before the inner doors open or elevator stops, because F you, that's why. Oh, just wait, you've been blessed with nothing past that knob being on a 9. Yeah. I'm gonna have to agree with this guy. I do think we're kind of we can definitely see how the AI game director, throws a lot at us, and then sometimes it kind of gives us a break. I do think there's an Absolute run where I didn't have 1 Terminus spawn, but that was like 1 out of 20 Absolute runs, so don't expect that. I love how he says, when this happens, you'll have a crazy story about it. Recently, I posted a video of, a hallway full of Majorists. So that was kind of crazy. It was legit. It was a hallway full of Majorists. There was probably about 15, something like that. So, yeah, I'm going to have to agree with this guy. I do think Absolute is actually pretty difficult. It's just you can get like 1 or 2 good luck runs, I would call them. I'm also not too sure how deep into the Absolute runs this poster is. It feels like they probably played either they're basically going to play Assault and they're going to one-tap Majorist. That's probably the only way they can have that opinion, that it's easy. And they also probably had good teammates as well. So I'm curious to see if I can find how many Absolute missions they completed. I use the word blessed very loosely because you'll feel like you were a great lethal player, Billy badass and all, and then that stuff happens, you aren't expecting the director to crank it to 17, and you get plastered by 9 warriors or rubrics that are just suddenly there, and you had 0 chance. It's fun. I gotta say, dude, yeah, Absolute is very fun. The amount of stuff I've been able to get through in Absolute and look back on and just be like, how did we get through that? It just feels very rewarding. It feels like, taking down a Dark Souls boss for your first time or whatever, except it's something that consistently takes a step up in difficulty as you going through Ruthless, Lethal, and Absolute. It's like there's definitely moments you'll see on all those difficulties where you just consistently get better and are able to deal with more and more. And then even in those moments, the game director will just throw something at you out of nowhere that is just like something you've never seen before. And you basically have to perform well or die. And that's why I really like the game. The game just has so many moments where you are just on the edge of your seat. You're not too sure what is going on, but you are still landing those parries and you're still getting the job done. And it's just really fun to look back on. I had the same reaction when I did all of my absolutes right after the patch. Was it more difficult than Lethal? Yes. Was it super difficult? No. I personally love it when it just gets insane. Here's the thing. Like, I feel like people... Yeah, let me go back to, was it super difficult? No. I feel like people need to jump into Fall of Atreus and Reliquary. Reliquary was definitely an experience. I think the hardest operation for me when it came to my absolute runs was Termination. Those Spore Mines. And you can get a Carnifex right in the beginning of the level, where basically the Carnifex will spawn and then there's only one way to go. So you're effectively fighting a Carnifex in a enclosed space, and it can be rough. Not to mention with the Spore Mines that can spawn right next to them as well. Termination was a pain. And I think Reliquary I had some good teammates for. Fall of Atreus I had some good teammates for, but even then, Fall of Atreus was kind of crazy. Obelisk, obviously. I think Obelisk wasn't too difficult. Obelisk is very fun. I have a great time playing that operation. Super difficult. I'm going to say no as well, but it really depends on your teammates. It can be super difficult. There were times in Operation number 3 where, again, I had teammates just walk right in and aggro everything on the map. Yeah, that's super difficult because they died. Because they died and I had to go on in the operation alone. So, yeah, there are definitely super difficult moments, I will say. I personally love it when it just gets insane. That's why I also play the Cataclysm mod sometimes to kick things into overdrive. Would it be amazing to get a difficulty that has a similar feeling without needing to mod the game? I'm not too sure that will happen because I know that mod can mix Tyranids and Chaos together. And I imagine that definitely adds a unique difficulty element for sure. I've had a few moments where things just go downhill, like a huge sniper wave, Spore Mines, double zone throws, Lictors, and Carnifex all in one area at the same time, and that was amazing. I mean, you can get that. You can okay. I don't know about Spore Mines, double zone, Lictor, Carnifex in one area, but I'm pretty sure you can get something similar to that in Absolute. Plus, with the new resource system, you don't even have to play any higher difficulties to fully upgrade your gear for those that don't like the challenge and just want to have fun destroying the Xenos and traders. All that's locked behind is a small handful of optional cosmetics. Hey, maybe the rewards for Absolute could be a little bit buffed. That would be interesting. I do like the cosmetics we get for it. The shoulder pad is very nice. Yeah, definitely let me know your experience with Absolute. Like, if you think it's too easy, which is kind of wild. I don't share the same sentiment the original poster has. He basically was pretty much saying it was a bit easy for him. I do think pretty much every Absolute operation you do have to play your best. And I wouldn't call that easy. I actually think Absolute is in a really good spot, difficulty-wise. I think this is one of the best times I've had in the game, to be honest. Fighting 3 extremists really can spice up the map, especially if they're biovores. Like Zoanthropes have been... see, the thing is, I have been playing Sniper quite a bit, so I've been taking out Zoanthropes. And I also... am using the Neo-Volkite pistol, which is also good against Zoanthropes. So, yeah, I don't know. I think a lot of this just boils down to the game director and then your teammates, you know? So, yeah, definitely let me know your experience with Absolute. I'm not trying to push for any Absolute buffs, but I am kind of curious to see people's experience with it. Because like we have seen with a recent patch, we've seen some nerfs. So, it's kind of interesting to see how people are adapting. because if people are still steamrolling the game, it's unlikely we will get any of those nerfs unnerfed, even though, you know, the invigorating icon might be adjusted. But other than that, I don't really see any nerfs, you know, making their way to get buffed or anything like that. Like the grenade launcher, I'm not sure if that's gonna get buffed. You know what I mean? All right, yeah. But again, just let me know in the comments your experience with Absolute, and thanks for watching.